everybody, and thanks for joining me today. So today, working some more on that flower petal. Again, following the curve of the colors, the way they're going across the pattern. And then I'm going to sort of fill in more up top once I've filled in this flower. So yeah, that is why we are doing it that way. Yeah, kind of a gloomy day today, but no snow, so I won't complain too much. Yeah, so still looking for vehicle. Took one out for a test drive yesterday, and Acura MDX, which is like the little SUV they make. And my kiddo wasn't really in love with it. He said it was okay, but we were thinking of getting it because it was, you know, a lot of the stuff we're looking for. Not the mileage isn't too bad. It's yeah, it's not too old but not too new, that kind of thing. Anyway, then my husband calls the insurance company to see how much the insurance would be, and yeah, it was way too much. So because it's considered a luxury vehicle, because it's like the luxury line of Hondas, and because it's a 300 horsepower vehicle, yeah, the insurance would have been super high. So we're like, yeah, forget it. We're not getting that. And so I'm like, well, now I'm glad that kiddo wasn't in love with it, because yeah, I would have hated for him to be ecstatic and wanting to get it, and then we have to tell him, yeah, sorry. The car itself, the price was in our budget, but the insurance is not. So yeah, we're gonna keep looking. So yeah, my husband's thinking that we're probably going to have to make a trip to one of the neighboring big cities to find what we're looking for. He's got he's let the dealerships in town know, you know, what kind of thing we're looking for in our price range, and so they'll contact him if something comes in that's suitable. But yeah. So far, no luck. But honestly, I find the buying less stressful. The selling was more stressful, so I'm glad that was out of the way. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I was quite surprised how roomy that vehicle was inside. Lots and lots of leg room. I sat in the back, and yeah. But honestly, it was probably more seats than he needed. Like, there's an optional sort of another row of seats at the back, but he doesn't really need that much. It's more of like a soccer mom's vehicle, so yeah. But my husband's been bugging him too. Like, he'll be looking on for vehicles, and of course things will come up. He's like, oh, look, we could get you a Zamboni. Or you know, oh, here's a combine, you could drive that to school. Yeah, kiddo's not amused. He's just, Dad, stop it. Oh. So yeah, like I said, the colors are sort of making stripes that way, almost horizontally, so I've been following them. And again, trying to work from the established edges and not close anything in on all 4 sides. Some will end up being on 3 sides. But I'm happy. I feel my stitches are still fairly neat. So I'm not, the biggest thing is not struggling to get my needle through, because yeah, I find when it's closed in on all 4 sides, that can be a bit of a pain to get your needle through, especially without piercing the other threads and it lying funny. Okay, so just gonna take a look. Yeah, I'm gonna have 2 threads sort of here tackling this area of pink. Okay, 648. And then, yeah, there's some light grays and blues sort of scattered in here for shading. Oh, I'm going to have to replace this envelope. Yeah. Eventually, the envelopes, I find, they split. But they're pretty cheap, so it's not, it's not a big deal to replace them. Yeah. Of course, some colors, they are used more so the envelope wears out faster. But I find still, it takes like 6 months to a year for an envelope to wear out. So yeah, it's not too expensive. And then I take it, the envelope, and the old one, I use it for scrap paper for like writing shopping lists on and stuff before I eventually recycle it. Yeah, it's funny. One of my friends said her unique little hobby is collecting people's shopping lists that she finds, like in the, you know, people leave it in the carts or in the parking lot or whatever. Yeah, which I'm thinking, I wonder if that would be some kind of something a historian would be interested in, you know, years later, right? Yeah, it was funny. I was reading this one saying that some things are lost to history because when people wrote them down, they didn't write down certain details that at the time everybody knew. And then when things changed, it got lost. Like they said, Victorians used to have salt and pepper shakers plus one other container. And there's a lot of debate as to what it was for. Was it for, you know, mustard or like chili flakes, or like they don't know. Yeah, and of course that's not something anybody, would you bother to write down that, yeah, we keep salt and pepper shakers on our table? Like nobody would, right? Because that's just something everybody does, right? It's so common that, yeah. And they said, or imagine people, you know, years from now trying to make some of our recipes and not knowing what kind of eggs we use, right? Because nobody bothers to specify that it's a chicken egg, right? We all know that it's a chicken egg. And so somebody's like, yeah, imagine somebody's trying to use like an ostrich egg or something and wondering, you know, like, why is everything so runny? And because ostrich eggs are huge, right? And yeah. Or there was one saying, what was it? They had an old, I guess you could call it a recipe for how to make concrete, and they kept trying, it didn't work, and it said water because it didn't specify that it was seawater they'd been using. Yeah. So of course fresh water and seawater have very different properties, right? Yeah. But again, it was sort of something that, well, anybody making concrete would know that, so they didn't bother to write it down. Yeah. And it got lost to history. Yeah, it makes you wonder how many things we found that have been misinterpreted by archaeologists and stuff. Because, yeah, they said, like, imagine if they had archaeologists hundreds of years from now finding stuff from our society. So they had, like if they found barbecues, would they think it was some kind of, like, you know, ritual sacrificial area or something? Because, hey, we found animal blood and animal bones, right, and stuff. And it even showed like a picture of an old apron and that said kiss the cook on it, and it said, yeah, and you know, people wore these ceremonial garments that, you know, things like that. And it's like, yeah, no, it's not a ritual or anything like that. We just sometimes like to get together and cook on the grill outside because it tastes good. Yeah, or it was funny. It was this whole article showing misinterpreted stuff, like parking meters that we were, you know, paying homage to gods or something with it, instead of just like, ew, you're paying to park the vehicle. So yeah, it makes you wonder how many things that we've extrapolated from studying ancient ruins and stuff that we've got completely wrong without knowing it. Yeah, it's like there was the old urban legend about the lady who was cut a piece off her roast before putting it in the oven, and her husband asks, why do you do that? She says, oh, that's how my mom does it. And her mom says, you know, she asked her mom, and her mom says, I don't know, that's how my mom does it. And so they asked Grandma, and she said, well, that's how my mom does it. And so they asked Great Grandma, and she says, oh yeah, that's because, you know, we only had a small roasting dish, and that's the only way it would fit. Yeah, and nobody bothered to ask. They just did it because that's how they saw Mom do it. I said, although I don't know if that's me. I was always the one questioning why we did stuff the way we did, which often drove my mom nuts. Or it was one of my hobbies is looking up the origin of phrases. Yeah, which is nice because now with internet, that's really easy to do. But yeah, before, pre-internet, you had to ask an adult, and if they didn't know, yeah, that was it. You just didn't know, or maybe they got it wrong and you believed the wrong thing for years, sometimes forever. Yeah, it's funny because, like, I grew up sort of through the, what you might call it, like, the birth of the internet and the computer age. So I remember what it was like before. And yeah, like, my kid has a hard time grasping when I talk about it, because I said, sometimes even I forget how it used to be. But yeah, I didn't know the definition of a word. I had to go find a dictionary to look it up. And one time we had this dictionary, it was huge. It was like 6 inches thick or something, and it had like 100,000 words in it. And, but of course, you can't have every word, right? There's always going to be something. And we were reading one of the Narnia books, and one of the guys says somebody was a nosegay of virtues. And we're like, nosegay? What does that mean? Looked it up. Didn't know. So we just didn't know for years that it meant like a bouquet of flowers, right? Yeah. And then when you think about, oh, it makes sense. Yeah. It's like saying made your nose happy, right? Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of times, yeah, people carried around those scent things because people didn't bathe so much and the air could get kind of ripe. Okay, now we're getting into the pinks. Yeah, the last time I was stitching this, the upper part here, there is some pink, but there was a lot more grays and white and very light blues. It took a while to get to the pink. I was expecting more pink. Now we're getting to the darker part of the flower here. So the darker pinks are coming through. Yeah, funny talking about trying to get a vehicle for kiddo. It's up on my electronic frame right now when he was driving his little toy Jeep, motorized one when he was a toddler. Yeah. It's funny though, he liked to wash it more than he liked to drive it. I don't know why, but we would have to give him like a time limit because he would just wash it like all day. And yeah, so it's like, you know, didn't want to waste water, so it was like, okay, you could wash it for 5 minutes and then yeah, it's time to be done. I don't know why. It's not like his dad is obsessed with washing his vehicles, so I don't know. Because yeah, he had his own little jack stand. My husband had a spare one, and so yeah, he would like to sit there jacking up his car and pretending he's changing the tires and stuff, which is pretty cute. And now he's big enough, he drives a real car. Yeah, has been for a year now. Yeah, he's got my vehicle again today because I didn't need to go anywhere. It was funny because, yeah, my husband came home for lunch one day in the middle of the week, and he's like, I thought you were not home for a second, because he didn't see my car in the driveway before remembering, yeah, no, our son has it, that's why. Okay, grabbing the wrong thread here. There are a lot of them. Yeah, and they're getting a little tangled. I may have to reset. Sometimes I gotta, yeah. Sometimes I gotta pull all the needles off, sort of straighten all the threads out and start afresh. so that they don't get too tangled. I think I'm gonna do that. It's starting to get a little bit unruly here. There we go. Oh, I missed one. Okie doke. That's better. Yeah, so it's one reason I do try to sort of work from one edge to another. I find I get less threads sort of leapfrogging over each other and getting tangled up. So yeah, I'm gonna. So here's where my cutoff line is here, line 260. I do about 60 rows per pass for 14 count and 80, I believe, for 18 count. First couple passes were 70 rows because, yeah, it didn't divide perfectly by 60 rows. There was 20 left at the bottom, so I added them to the top passes. So I've got 2 of these. Okay, this one's not very long, and I think this one I just add. Yes, it is. So, oh, need to trim that. I think this will be perfect for those 4 stitches, and then we'll tie it off. Yeah, saying about how technology has changed the world so rapidly. And one of my friends, she wrote a book that was set in the mid-90s. And in it, a character, she stays behind after the day at school to go to the library so she can look something up. And they're like, well, why didn't she just look it up at home? And they're like, well, look it up in what? Because no internet, and unless you were a family who had a set of encyclopedias, there was no way to look it up. Yeah, if the adults in your life didn't know, then you were just out of luck. Yes, and I'm so spoiled now. Read on my e-reader and I don't know what a word means, just press on it and boom. Although it is supposed to, it opens up the dictionary, but it can also open up Wikipedia too. But I find every time I'm trying to open up Wikipedia, it says I don't have an internet connection, which is really frustrating. Because the the dictionary is like downloaded local to the device, so you don't need a Wi-Fi connection to, yeah. to look up a word definition, but if you want to look up more information through Wikipedia, then it needs a Wi-Fi, and I find it's kind of spotty at staying attached to it. Or connected, I suppose I should say. Yeah. And it's not my Wi-Fi because like my phone stays connected no problem, but the Kindle I find is kind of intermittent. It's funny too, sometimes I'll be rearranging books on it and it will say that, you know, this book was added via a USB cable, and I'm like, no, it wasn't. Because I bought it via the Amazon and it downloaded via the cloud. I haven't added anything to my Kindle with the USB in years. In fact, it was kind of nice because I bought a bunch of ebooks from Kobo, and you had to convert them from the original format into one that the Kindle can read, because they're, you know, different formats. But yeah, then it works, and I had to upload those via USB, but they're now in my cloud, even though I didn't intend to add them to the cloud, because when I changed devices, they showed up. I thought I was going to have to manually add those like 20 books again, but nope, they were there. So yeah, that was kind of nice. Because yeah, there was one time they were having a big like 40% off sale, so yeah, I got a bunch of stuff that I wanted. Yeah, I said I should have just waited a few years, because before ebooks were really much of a thing, I liked a lot of authors whose stuff was no longer in print, and I had to pay quite a lot to track some of them down, because they were usually in the US, so our dollar sucks in comparison. So there was a big, got really dinged there. And then often had to pay import fees. So sometimes for like a mass market paperback, I was paying, you know, $15 for a book. Sometimes more. So a couple of them I paid even 20 when you counted all the shipping and duties and everything. And then like 10 years later, they started showing up on Kindle, and half the time they were for free. It was like, ah, darn it. If I'd known, I would have waited. Yeah. I used to sell a lot of my old paperbacks online, but then once ebooks the market kind of exploded, yeah, really wasn't worth it anymore. I couldn't, darn it, there's a knot on this. I really couldn't compete with US sellers, because the postage in the US is way cheaper than here. Like, yeah. Yeah, Canadian postage is extremely expensive. A lot of times you pay more for postage than you pay for the actual product itself, which is frustrating. And few places give, you know, if you buy a minimum amount, they give you free shipping. Even like Canadian companies will often not have that. Yeah, like there's one craft place where I liked to order from, and they base the shipping as a percentage of the amount that you spend. So instead of like, if you reach this minimum, they give you free shipping. No, it just costs you more. It does top out at a certain point where, yeah, they charge you a maximum of X amount of shipping and then no more. But yeah, kind of frustrating. Okay. Okay, I'm going to kind of stitch in both directions here with this thread, so I don't have to add another just yet, although I may at some point. Actually, I'm going to do those 3 as well since they're right up into that corner there. So yeah, the way that I've done this, work sort of some from this edge, and then I'm going to work some from the other edge until it's completely filled in. Yeah, I'm glad I reset those threads. Easier to handle now. And yeah, put some needles over this way, and then the ones from this side will go separate. Okay, so put that there. So now I'm gonna come over here again. Check how long is this piece. Oh yeah, that is fairly long. Okay. So yeah, I was gonna start one sort of over here and work out, but since I have one part here, I don't want to add another thread when it's not that many stitches. There's only like 4 of that tic-tac-toe board. So working sort of from both sides means I do sometimes end up closing a stitch or 2 in. It just becomes too much of a juggling act. There we go. I can see some other colors are coming here. It's probably the center part of the flower there. These are more the outer petals. Okay. I'll actually do that one as well. Like I said, there is going to be some closing it on 3 sides with this method. That's just unavoidable. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to do a couple out of order here. knots. I kind of thought that was a little too close to the end of the thread, but I was hoping it would hold for this last stitch, but nope. Trying to use my nails, but it was not happening. I could only grab one strand. Oops. Trying to go to markup mode, but I messed up. add more of this color anyway because this thread is running low. Bird outside my window, I swear it doesn't know any other notes. It just goes wee, 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 wee all day. Ugh. I swear the other day I was walking by, there was a seagull. We don't get a lot of them here because we're more inland, but I swear it sounded like it was laughing. I actually thought it was a person laughing for a minute. Ugh. I grew up near the ocean, but I don't think I ever heard that before. Yeah, I grew up on Vancouver Island, so grew up seeing lots of them. Leftover bits here. Yeah, I think I got some shorter pieces I can use up rather than starting a long one and creating more shorter pieces to store later. Okay, another color here. Yeah, again, this one's gonna branch off a bit. It's rather scattered. Oh, goodness, pardon me. Huh. Yeah, I think I'll go for my walk later, get my blood moving and wake myself up. Oops. Ah, rats. I had it all folded, the ends neatly lined up, and then I caught it on something and pulled one end right out of my hand. all I'm going to get out of that thread. That was close. I almost grabbed the wrong color. I almost grabbed 3609 instead of 08. That would have been bad. Well, probably wouldn't have noticed. It's pretty close, but I don't want to do it incorrectly if I can help it. Ouch. Darn. Poked me finger. Thankfully it's not bleeding, so. Well, we have a lot of needles, but yeah, once we reach the bottom of the pass, that thins it out pretty well. threads from either side. Actually, before I add this, yeah, looking at the pattern, I'm going to fill in that color a bit first from the other side. Use another thread. It's going to be a tight squeeze, but I think I can get those last 2 stitches out of that thread afterwards. Ah, darn it. There. I think I'll do these next because this is a super short thread and I don't think it will, the needle will stay on, so get it tied off, squared away. So we'll see, will it take a whole 200 stitches to finish filling in this flower petal here or not? 170, well, 172 now. We will see. I've been trying to make longer sessions for you all because I've had quite a lot of feedback saying people enjoy the longer ones, even if I kind of run out of things to say. Okay. It's a longer carry, but it's still within that about an inch that I like to stick to. Okay, so I have one thread on the other side, which is fairly long. One thread on this side, which is also decent length, but I'm thinking there's enough stitches here to use up both. We shall see. With these bigger blocks, I often end up with sort of threads meeting in the middle. Okay, 3047. I have some shorter bits here. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah, this is where I can see below the cutoff line. This is where sort of the center of the flower is showing up. Go look at my mock-up as well. Yes, it's where like some yellows and browns show up because it's the center of it. Oh yeah, this will take over 200. If I'm at 180 now, yes. All right, I'm gonna work on just pink for the moment, and then I will fill in these other yellows and stuff that's coming in after. We have less than 20 stitches now to reach 200, so that should be no problem. 2, 3, 4. Wow, there's a fair amount of color changing in here, but still made really good progress. So happy with that. Okay, and then I'm gonna come from the other side with this other thread. Okay. Kind of like when I only have to juggle two colors back and forth. It goes quite quickly that way. Oops, that is no good. Look at that forming a knot. Let's see if we can untie it or it will continue to be. Okay, good. See, that one is, yeah, starting to run low. Okay. Goodness, this one is being, yeah. Being a bit temperamental on me. Yeah, looks like I'm going to be a fair amount over 200 actually. To finish these off, there's just enough left here for some single stitches, so save those bits. Okay, yeah, here comes the tans and yellows, the center. Won't be any closing in on all four sides, so kind of cross country a little bit here. I can get impatient when I get to close to finishing a section. Start to go a little less disciplined. Okay. Oh, there must be a page line right there. Okay. This thread is a little more unruly because it's old and has been on a bobbin for a long time. Yeah, it's got a lot of kinks in it. Which is why I don't use bobbins anymore. Yeah, you can see it's pretty bumpy. Okay, 2 colors left. It is all filled in. Very bright orange. Okay. Darn it. Man, not even one full stitch and it already tied itself in knots. How frustrating. There we go. Actually closer to 250 stitches were left than to 200. Yeah, I had someone think that I actually counted the stitches I do. It's like, oh no, I would never keep count if the app didn't do it for me. I'd rather be stitching than counting. Yeah, I used to know how many I did by, like, at the end of a project, I would calculate how many days I had spent on it, and then, yeah, divide the number of stitches by the number of days, and it would give me an average. But that was also when I worked only on one project. I don't have a lot of projects in rotation, but I do work on more than one now. So, okay. Oh, that's no good. There we go. And park that. So yeah, 245. I'm pretty happy with that. So thank you so much for joining me today, and hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone.